Like and subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon to get new video updates.
Analysis: who owns railroad cars? Note: usually not the railroad. The railroads themselves do not own many automobiles. There were 149 cars on the Norfolk Southern train that went off the tracks in East Palestine, Ohio on February 3rd. But only 9 were owned by railroads, 30 others were owned by TTX, a company jointly controlled by North America's largest railroads, that pools rolling stock assets among operators, according to John Gray, Senior Vice President of Policy and Economics at the Association of American Railroads. The remainder was privately owned. Also the 23rd car, a hopper car loaded with plastic pellets, whose overheated wheel bearing was identified by the National Transportation Safety Board's preliminary findings as the trigger for the derailment. This type of ownership is fairly typical. Private, non-railway owners, to which shippers, lessors of rolling stock, such as GATX Corporation and Trinity Industries Incorporated, as well as third-party investors, match in at 2/3 of the cars used on North American routes, Gray said in an interview. When owned by the railroads or TTX, the car is much more likely to be a freight car used to transport products, such as canned food, beer and household appliances, or a combined wagon whose containers are transferred from ships and trucks to rail. Can become tank cars used to transport raw chemicals or fuel, are 99.9% privately owned, and hopper cars used for dry bulk cargo, such as wheat, coal, rock or roofing granules, are about 80% privately owned, he said. Railways are required by regulators to check the condition of vehicles as they come onto a route, including whether the brakes are working properly and whether there is any apparent damage to wheels or axles, but their duties are mostly limited to what is visual, and bare disassembly of the vehicle can be assessed, he said. Bearings, like the one that overheated in the Norfolk Southern derailment, are sealed and enclosed in a metal box, so they can be thoroughly inspected simply by running your eyes over them, Gray said. This is one of the reasons railroads have installed thermal sensors along their tracks to alert crews to potential bearing failures. The Norfolk Southern train passed 3 of these detectors during its journey, but only the 3rd registered a temperature high enough to sound an alarm, allowing the crew to stop the train. At this point it was too late to avert a derailment. Much is still unknown about the circumstances leading up to the Norfolk Southern derailment, which forced the railroad to stage a controlled release and ignition of vinyl chloride, a colorless, carcinogenic gas used to make hard plastic resin, in a potentially catastrophic event prevent explosion. Much of the political and public backlash thus far has centered on Norfolk Southern for obvious reasons. The railroad didn't help itself by fumbling the initial message around this accident. While there is no apparent evidence of gross negligence on the part of Norfolk Southern at this time, the rail industry needs to look inward and consider what sort of extra safety measures may have prevented this derailment, or whether other regulations it has previously opposed are contributing, could help others to avoid similar environmental disasters. But the people of East Palestine deserve a full picture of what went wrong, and that should include a conversation about the owner and maintenance records for the car in question, and others that derailed. Wheel overheated, but he refused to identify who it was. A representative for the NTSB did not respond to questions about the hopper car's ownership. The NTSB has announced that its full investigation will include an examination of the wheelset and bearings, railcar design and maintenance procedures, and Norfolk Southern's use of heat detectors and inspection practices.